Good afternoon, a very warm welcome. Good morning to some, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone from across the globe. I, Anita Jatana, consultant dietetics at Indraprastha Hospital, Delhi, would like to extend a very warm welcome and a real warm one to all our esteemed speakers, moderators, chairpersons, and participants for another Gap Year session, which is in collaboration with Global Dietitian Community. We all know GAPYO is a global association of physicians of Indian origin. And today's session is a very interesting one on nutrition for enhancing sports performance. We all know sports nutrition plays a key role in optimizing the beneficial effects of physical activity, whether it's for a bodybuilder, a professional athlete in training, or exercising to improve only one's physical health. Making informed decisions with one's nutrition and hydration can result in improved performance. We know that. Injury prevention and quicker recovery. But it's difficult to know where to start with so much of conflicting information readily available by Dr. Google. So that's why we are here to understand from the experts how much of carbohydrate, protein, fats, and fluids are required, and when to give and how much to give to optimize our performance. So today's session will enlighten us to help us in guiding our patients when they ask us questions and help them to improve their performance and also avoid excess of supplements, which we all know have real adverse effects. I don't know if you've heard of that incident in Delhi when a person who was gymming was taking a very, very high protein diet and he ended up with renal issues. So everybody is, just taking a lot of supplements and somebody guided, sometimes just guided by the gym instructors who I don't know how educated they are. So leading to a lot of misinformation. So to get all those myths clear, we've got very, very senior speakers with us here today. Ms. Shini's an accredited sports dietitian, IOC and SDA, who will be speaking on optimizing nutrition for sports excellence with focus on customizing nutrients for periodization and female athletes, which is different. And Dr. Ketanjali Kochar, a sports and fitness nutritionist at Army Rowing Node, Secretary, Association of Sports and Nutrition and Fitness Sciences. She'll be speaking on sports, the foods, drinks, and supplements, the need, effects, and efficacy to enhance performance. So a lot of interesting chapters here today, sessions today to enlighten us. So request everybody to be muted during the session and do post your questions in the chat box. Taking this forward, I'll request Dr. Rucha Mehta to take this forward. And she is a medical nutritionist. She has completed her fellowship in clinical nutrition and has more than 25 years of experience. She is presently working at Apollo Hospital, Ahmedabad. Rucha would request you to take this session forward.
Thank you, Anita. Welcome, everyone from across the globe. Today, I would like to welcome our chairperson, Professor Dr. Preeti Rishlal. She's faculty at Lady Irwin College, also a former scientific officer at Sports Authority of India. She'll be chairing our session today. Very, very welcome, Dr. Preeti Lal Shah. Over to Dr. Preeti.
Thank you so much, Rucha, for this kind introduction and a warm welcome. And a very good morning. It's rather early morning, I should say, to colleagues from Eastern, Central, Pacific, British Summer time zones, and an equally good evening to colleagues from Australia and India. I truly appreciate your joining in at all odd hours to make this platform one global family, Vasudhaiv Kutumbaka. And on that note of Indianness, let's take a brief look at our session today. As Dr. Anita Jatana has already introduced, the main focus of this session is to update knowledge and practice tips on sports nutrition backup for individualized performance enhancement. And to conduct this session, we have two young, accomplished, currently practicing sports nutrition experts from India. They will speak for about 15-20 minutes each, and then we will have a question-answer session. And I request all participants to please keep their videos and microphones muted at all times and post their queries only in the chat box. Without further ado, I would now like to introduce our first speaker, Ms. Shaini Surendran. Ms. Surendran is a well-known personality in sports nutrition in India. She is the first certified graduate diploma holder from the International Olympic Society in 2009. She's been a passionate learner and has certificates, has been certified with a diploma, also a certificate from the Sports Dietitian Australia, Kinanthropometry from ISAC, New Zealand, and a Nutrigenomics from Gene Support Pune. Also in IBS from Monash University. She's an author, an academician, a columnist, a speaker at various national conferences, and need I say more. We are really privileged to have you with us, Shaini. I now call upon you to kindly deliver your session on optimizing nutrition for sports excellence with focus on customizing nutrients for periodization and female athletes. Over to you, Shaini.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Preeti Rishilal. Thank you, Anita Jatana, ma'am. I'm really happy to be part of the GAPIO's presentation and really happy to meet each and every one of you here. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, irrespective of where you are. Greetings to all of you. I would really encourage you to ask questions and put out your questions in the comment section. And it'll be really nice to understand what happens in your side of the world and how we are managing here in this part of the world. And this is how we can share knowledge and also learn from each other. Okay, so I'm going to be sharing my slides. Ma'am, are you able to view this? Could you?
Yeah, it's visible, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sushil Jain. Thank you so much. Yeah. So we'll go ahead with the presentation. So the reason why we chose this topic is this has been a point of discussion among sports dietitians because female athletes are considered as, you know, just a smaller version of the men or other small men, but we are not. It's just that we are dealing with our menstrual cycle and then there's perimenopause, menopause, and a whole lot of challenges that athletes face. And this is not something that is discussed so much. And this is an upcoming field, and we've been discussing a lot about periodization and also about female athletes and their menstrual cycles and how we should look at this. So that's why I thought, you know, it'll be great for us to have an overview of what it is. We all know different sports come up with different challenges, and other most important factors also, irrespective of who we are, which athlete we are, but you know, the cultural differences, the ethnic differences, and the beliefs in each of those communities, and even across India, when we see north, south, east, west, northeast, northwest, southwest, there are so many challenges when it comes to cultural differences and diversified challenges that we have in terms of food, especially when we recommend something. The most often that we come across is there are religious aspects that we have to look into, and then there could be a fasting ritual that the community is going through in particular months or else few days of the week, and we really need to fine-tune the diet accordingly. Okay, so basically if you're looking at sports, we have all sorts of skill, power, mixed sports as well as the endurance sport, and of course customization is the key here. And as we look at sports nutrition per se, more than protein, it's very important that we get a good balance of everything. Because most often when we say sports nutrition, there'll be this idea about sports supplements and protein in general. And I'm sure Geetanjali is going to be discussing a lot about protein supplements. But what really gets neglected in the world of intermittent fasting and keto diets and all that is the carbohydrate and the role it plays. So it's very important to ensure that the macros are not compromised at any level, and there should be a good balance of all. And periodization is something that's very important for athletes. The reason being, there are times that athletes are not competing. The everyday training happens, and then there are also days that lead up to the competition. And then after the competition, there is also a phase of off season. And during these cycles, the diet has to be fine-tuned. For the ones who do not work with athletes, if you even see a client who goes to a fitness center in order to stay fit, you will see that thrice a week they go in for weight training or as resistance training. And the other 3 or 4 days, they might be doing cardiovascular activity on their own, probably for an outdoor run or cycling or swimming. Now, what happens is those 3 days of weight training, I think we really need to fine-tune the diet accordingly. Because depending on the intensity and of course the frequency and the inputs coming in from the fitness trainer, we just have to make sure that we adjust the diet. So periodization can be brought into practice even for the ones who are training in the fitness centers. Now, again, in terms of training, we definitely have to look into what are the specific goals of training. What is it that brought them to your space, that is to the nutritionist chamber or else to the clinic? And what are the aspects of improvement that they are looking at in terms of their sports performance? So next 3 months or the next 6 months or for the entire year, what is it that we're looking at? So we look at the macro cycle, mesocycle, and of course the microcycle. And we really have to set out targets and then figure out what are the goals for every quarter. So discussing all these aspects with the strength and conditioning coach as well as the sports coach is very important. And also if the psychologist or the physiotherapist is involved, we need to take that also into consideration. And what are the nutrient interventions that will optimize their performance and how well to adapt them? Okay, all these aspects really need to be looked into. And then working long term, it doesn't stop with just one diet chart, but then of course, we'll just have to fine tune and travel with them over a period of time. And this is what is going to be truly helpful. And we all know about the fuel sources that come into play. And another most important factor, as I mentioned earlier, it's not about protein and sports supplements all the time. Just working on the basics, ensuring that they're getting adequate carbohydrate, they're recovering well, that their hydration is optimized. I think that becomes most important. And a lot of people get carried away that they end up using a whole bunch of supplements and then ignore the basics. So carbohydrates and fat again becomes very important, especially even for endurance athletes. And relatively more and more carbohydrate is used as far as the exercise intensity improves. It goes to the next level. And there are a few factors that we definitely have to keep in mind. The quality of the diet is very important. Also the nutrient timing. The sleep is another overlooked factor, because of late when we work with a lot of teenage athletes, adolescent athletes, we notice that these children are going to bed very late, but then they have their practice sessions at around 4:30 or 5 a.m. and that becomes really tough and their recovery is compromised big time. So training aspects, rest and recovery, stress management, the mental aspects, which the sports psychologist is handling, and inputs from them also is important. Nutrient timing again, when to give protein or when to give fish oil capsules, or how much of protein and carbohydrate should be taken before training, after training, and also during training hours. All of these aspects, the principal concepts of sports nutrition really need to be emphasized time and again. Hydration is also important, and across India we know how the temperature varies so much and each state has a different challenge. And I think it's important for all of us to ensure that we are looking at the humidity, we're looking at the weather forecast, and then also being in touch with our athlete to provide them adequate advice. Body composition analysis is very, very important, because the regular height and weight charts or else the BMI doesn't work for athletes at all. So body composition done periodically, either it be a DEXA scan, dual energy X-ray absorptiometry, or else it could even be in a clinical setup, I think even a bioelectrical impedance analysis will still do good, or maybe even a caliper. And if you look at the fuel sources, this is just an example of a session. So there are days, like if you take just 1 week, there could be like 4 to 6 hours of high intensity activity, which an athlete is going through. And then pre-training, during training, the carbohydrate feeding schedule could be quite high depending on the intensity of the exercise. And then, of course, later in the evening, you can taper it down and focus a lot more on the protein as well as the other recovery nutrition aspects. Next thing, if you look at the second day, 3 to 5 hours of low intensity activities. So at that point in time, the carbohydrates can be brought down. And then if you look at the post training as well as the evening meal, you step up the carbohydrates. So fine tuning happens like this week after week. Another thing is also, if the coach has decided to ensure that it's not very high intensity activity, or probably this week is going to be taken easy, then the emphasis will be a lot more on good fats, fiber, and also protein. And protein again is expressed as gram per kg body weight, even carbohydrates as gram per kg body weight, and not as in percentages, which we see in the clinical nutrition setup. Okay, so now nutrition training methods also varies a lot. So there are a lot of athletes who trained like 2 to 3 hours in the morning, and then sometimes in the afternoon they might have some specialized individual one-to-one coaching with their sports coaches, and then later in the evening again, say 7 to 9 p.m. or perhaps even 5 to 7 p.m. It could vary according to whether that person is a beginner, intermediate, or else even a elite athlete. So training low, training high, training the gut, and also training on a fasted state, training in the dehydrated state, and of course, what supplements to consider. These are the discussions that go on with the sports dietitian. And also the days that lead up to the competition, it's important to understand the competition nutrition. Okay, that's also very, very important. So it's all about combining the exercise training and how to fine-tune the diet or the nutrition accordingly so that the entire performance can be optimized. This will be the main thing that we plan. And this is just to give you an idea of how we go about doing it. So if it's during a off-season period, then probably the focus is a lot more on vegetables and then protein. And if you see the amount of grains, it's much less here. But if you look at the moderate training or else the hard training days, you will see that the whole grains or the starchy foods are much more compared to the first one. So keep fine-tuning the diet according to their microcycles, mesocycles, as well as the macrocycles. Okay, so again, pre-workout, during workout, post-workout, the entire ratio will change according to the program that's been given by the coach as well as the strength and conditioning specialist. I would also like to share this. See, most often carbohydrates, as you see, we don't say 60 to 70% of carbohydrates, but here it will be 3 to 5 gram per kg body weight. So if it's a light activity, it's 3 to 5. If it's moderate, it's around 5 to 7 gram per kg body weight. And then high, that is endurance activity, it will be 6 to 10 grams. And ultra marathons or else like Ironman athletes where their exercise intensity is high, and again it goes on for 4 to 5 hours a day, then again it's around 8 kg body weight. Okay, so what we need to understand is we are training so much. What really? Okay, can you go on mute, Ms. Ashwini? Thank you. And another factor is, if a female athlete is not menstruating, that's something which should be a cause of concern. It's very important for athletes, the strength and conditioning specialists, all of us involved with the athlete to ask about it, because if they're not getting their menstrual cycle, then there could be a compromise on the energy that is being met. Okay, they might not be eating adequately in order to keep their body composition in a certain way. And then maybe that can also lead to a lot of calorie restriction, and because of which menstrual cycle irregularities. And that's one thing that we really need to pay attention to. Now, carbohydrates again can vary during a training session. If you notice, there are times just before the event, the athlete might just take a little bit of carbohydrate and, do a mouth rinse, versus there are times that, for 1 to 2 hours of time, around 30 gram per hour. So if you notice, I'm just trying to show here the carbohydrates that's calculated and given, whether it's 30 gram per hour, whether it's 60 grams per hour or 90 grams per hour. Again, it depends on the duration of the event and the training sessions. Okay, and the type of carbohydrate also will change. Okay, so less than 1 hour, you will see that single or multiple transportable carbohydrates are used. And if it is more than 1 hour, then definitely you do see multiple carbohydrates being used. So it could be carbohydrate gels, or it can be like granola bars. There could be juices, sport drink, and a whole bunch of things that could come. So carbohydrate recommendation will vary on the duration and the intensity of the exercise. These are just the fluid guidelines. Again, this is subject to the ambient temperature or the environment temperature, the city in which the athlete is training. This again is a very important aspect, and it will vary a lot from individual to individual as well. So we've worked with a lot of adolescent athletes, and there were few who had severe cramping, and they also ended up feeling extremely tired, and some were even or rather admitted to hospitals. Okay, so it can vary. And adolescents, as you know, because of their hormonal activity, their sweat loss is also quite high. And if a person, say for instance, from Bangalore travels to Delhi in peak summer, the acclimatization is something that becomes a huge challenge. And if they're also going through other difficulties, say for instance, if they didn't sleep on time, or else there was a flight delay, all of this could actually contribute, or rather in a negative way, to the performance of the athlete. Okay, this again is about hydration, ensuring that the athletes check the color of urine and it should be colorless. So level 1 or 2 is still good, and they just have to make sure that they are hydrating well. Okay, so recovery nutrition again is all about post the exercise or practice session. They just have to take some carbohydrates, and also to ensure that replace the salts that they have lost. So it could be coconut water, it could be juices, it could be rehydrating sport drink along with some solids. It could be bananas, or it could be sandwiches, it could be porridges, any of that. But there is a combination of carbohydrate and protein together, and juices or electrolyte drinks are going to ensure that they do not have an episode of hyponatremia. Okay, and rebuilding, of course, the next meal should definitely have a lot more protein. So the agenda will be to get some 20 to 30 grams of protein for main meals, and for a snack would be around 5 to 10 grams. So ensuring that they get adequate protein and carbohydrates along with electrolyte helps in recovery. So if you look at the female athletes, there are a lot of challenges as far as female athletes are concerned, and it's just that it's not spoken about. It's just that the menstrual cycle and all of that, they also feel very, very exhausted just the time around the periods. And you also notice that the energy availability and all that. So if you notice here, female athletes, it says should aim for energy availability of approximately 45 calories per kg fat-free mass per day for optimal health and performance, and also for maintenance of their physique. If there is low energy availability, they could be having relative energy deficit, and that can start affecting their performance in a big way, and they could be more prone to injuries as well. So what we really need to focus is ensuring that they are paying attention, or they can use an app to check their cycle, which phase of menstrual cycle they are in, and also start observing their own individual energy levels. If it dips, or if they're feeling lighter, if they're able to perform better, and they need to just adjust their food habits accordingly, or fine-tune it accordingly, and that will be truly helpful. They could also consider eating a highly diverse diet, and also iron, calcium, and vitamin D supplements will be truly helpful. So working closely with the sports physician is going to be very, very helpful in the long run. And another thing is, of course, hydration. And another most important factor is also not to get carried away by social media, because there's just too much information given by unqualified dietitians, and that's been a cause of concern among our fraternity. Okay, so now if you look at the key factors, it is important that if you're working with female athletes, we should definitely consider the short-term heat acclimatization, which might be less effective in females compared to males, and also the ethnicity matters. Another most important factor is also the VO2 max. So regularly being in touch with the kinesiologist, or else the exercise physiologist, getting that information about their body composition across 1 year, and over a period of time, this documentation helps a lot. And then, of course, also the immune status. Okay, so all these aspects, if we can really pay attention, and along with their menstrual cycle data, it will be truly helpful. And if you look at relative energy deficit, it is there in men as well as women. Earlier, it was called as female athlete triad, but of course, now there is a very generic term which is called as RED. And what are the issues that happens? So you do have this entire spectrum which can get affected if they're not eating adequate calories. And it can affect bone health, endocrine system, metabolic challenges. So changes could be there. And also the growth and development and CVD as well as the GI system can get affected. So if they're not eating enough, they're going to stop menstruating, or they'll have irregular cycles, and because of which they'll they'll be more prone to soft tissue injuries, and of course, which means they are losing out on the selection processes, the opportunities that they're going to miss, and there are a lot of other takers if they are not going to be there, right? So we just have to ensure that they are doing well, and periods and menstrual cycles should be discussed by the coaches, the trainers, as well as the dietitians. And this is something that we really need to make it very normal and not be quiet about it. Okay, so we do see a whole bunch of articles again on social media or the newspapers, and there are challenges, and it's just that people do not talk about it, and there could be mood swings. There are recovery which gets hampered because of menstrual cycle, and these are things I feel should be out there in chatting rooms, and they also need a lot of support in terms of having a space where they can discuss about this openly, because if they're going to highlight this, sometimes they might be judged as being weak and not up to the mark. And a lot of athletes just stay quiet and they don't even want to discuss about it. So this is something that we should speak out in the open. Okay, so this just to show that there are small increases in their core body temperature, and on top of it, if they also have sweat loss, this is something that we really need to pay attention to. And if you also start tracking, like if you see day 15, and if you notice that what's written here is adaptation from endurance training may be increased today. So because of these hormone fluctuations, or estrogen is something that's going to promote the glycogen storage and also the insulin concentrations. And during the luteal phase, you do see positive impact on exercise. So understanding this and educating female athletes about menstruation, menstrual cycle will be great. And in fact, we need more information. And this could be a research topic for a lot of students or dietitians who are into the academic side or who are interested in research. We need more and more information on female athletes, their cycles, and the impact on exercise performance. And these are some of the studies, and we need more information. I think that's the most important aspect that I just wanted to convey here. And another point to consider will be, see, individualization is the key. Energy availability, macronutrients, and what to eat before exercise, the intra-workout, as well as the post-exercise fueling is very important. And each woman goes through different challenges. It's not that we can't generalize it. And there could be someone who has severe dysmenorrhea, or else they have diarrhea during the phase, during that entire week of menstrual cycle. So this has to be customized accordingly. Another factor is also the hormone balance, the gut health, and also the age-related hormone challenges. So again, whether should they be exercising or not, this is another debate. Again, men and women, it's very important for them to adjust their diet according to the resistance training or else the weight training that they're doing. Their protein intake is something that we find which is very compromised, especially among Indian athletes. So it is important for them to eat adequately and also focus on getting adequate protein for main meals as well as the snack, and also throughout the menstrual cycle. So goal setting again shouldn't be based only on weight, but it should be based on body composition, and there could be water retention during the different times of the menstrual cycle. So it's important to sensitize or educate the female athlete. And also calorie restriction is done rampantly, especially in aesthetic sports. Okay, so if they're wearing those tight garments, say for instance a gymnast or else a skater, and they're very, very conscious, and they also have major body image issues. So I think it's very important for dietitians as well as other sports professionals to definitely talk, and then we should take this up with the sports psychologist as well in case they've been having any eating disorders or body image issues, which we definitely find among athletes as well. And calcium, vitamin D supplementation, taking adequate iron, and also hydrating well is important. This is my last slide. Increasingly, we see that athletes also use their social media platforms, or they are on gadgets for a very long time, and this affects their sleep, which in turn affects the recovery, and then which means they're not able to give their best during exercise. Okay, so this is a question that we should ask. In fact, you could ask for their phones, or else check the time spent on using the gadget. It could be a tab, a laptop, or else a phone or television. And I think this is one question that's become a very important one to ask, because they easily spend around 3 to 4 hours on an average on the phone. And that's something that's going to affect their exercise performance. Thank you so much for this time that you have given for me to share. And I would love to take any questions after Geetanjali's session. Over to Preeti Rishilal, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for this opportunity to be here.
Thank you, in fact, Shailene, for such a comprehensive yet rigorous view on sport-specific periodization and individual schedules and customizing macro and micronutrients nutrients based on physiological goals of each training period, and especially for women.
Yeah? Excellent. Yeah.
Excellent. Absolutely.
And I also appreciate your mentioning the multidisciplinary approach, which is so appropriate for times today, and also motivating our young students towards research to get more information in this area. And with the permission of Dr. Sushil and Dr. Anita Jatana, in quick succession, let me introduce our second speaker, Dr.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, you were my supervisor for my internship. I can never forget that. I always take permission from you and feels very good.
No, please go ahead. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. So Dr. Geetanjali Bhire is a PhD in sports nutrition from Mumbai, and she's a current sports nutrition practitioner and a certified nutrigenomic counselor as well. She's a consultant with many elite Indian athletes and teams, institutes, and has worked as an academician with several universities and colleges, including SNDT Pune, Nirmala Niketan Mumbai, and Mount Carmel, Bangalore. And she's coordinated certificate courses also in sports-specific nutrition management. She's co-authored 10 research papers, and she's even published her own nutritional guidelines for athletes. I now call upon Dr. Geetanjali Bhire to kindly deliver her talk on sports foods, drinks, and supplements, need, effects, and efficacy to enhance performance. Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Preeti Rishilal, and thank you, Anita ma'am, for this warm introduction. Good evening, everyone, and wishing you all National Nutrition Month. Happy National Nutrition Month. Or Poshan Ma. So it's the second day of the National Nutrition Month, and here we are discussing about and making people aware of the most important topic, that is sports nutrition. And I must thank Anita ma'am for giving me this opportunity to educate everyone about the most controversial topic with a lot of fads and myths and a lot of things or some negative aspects about the supplements. There are a lot of people who associate sports nutrition with supplements, and they think that when you come to a sports nutritionist for consultation, she's actually going to give you a bag of supplements. So let me share my screen. Okay. Is it visible?
Yes,
so
it is.
The time given to me is just 15 to 20 minutes, and I have to cover a lot because it's a very huge topic about supplements, sports foods, drinks, and supplements. What is the need of the supplements? What is the efficacy, and how it can be used to enhance the performance of athletes? So there are a lot of things about supplements, and anybody rather who enrolls into a gym, any beginner or novice, as soon as they enter and start training with the gym, maybe they have just joined the gym to improve their fitness level, the trainer is going to come and tell them that they need to take this supplement, they need to have whey, they need to have this sparkling water, or what is called as sports drink. So it is very important for everybody to understand, is there a need if a person is doing a workout only for an hour for fitness? So the answer is, you need to first understand and know what you should be focusing when you are working with athletes, and how do you guide them. So hydration is definitely important. The pre-exercise, during exercise, and post-exercise, hydration is important. Shiny has also mentioned about the requirements of protein and how it is to be calculated, how to divide the protein requirements all through the day, and training periodization, because what is missing, most of us miss in practice, is not that we really don't ask for for the training program of the athletes. But when we practice on field as sports nutritionists, the first thing that comes to us is the training program. And based on the training program, we decide upon the nutrient requirements, calculate the macronutrients as well as micronutrient requirements. We decide upon the timings of the meals, and very important is training periodization and nutrient periodization. So athletes go to different phases of training and competition. So there is a general preparatory phase, specific preparatory phase, a pre-competition phase, a build-up competition phase, a competition phase, and off-season. And for all these stages of their entire calendar year of training, there is a different requirement of nutrition and also supplementation. So let us look at something which is sports drink, because I was told to talk about sports drink and everybody wants to know whether they should be consuming the sports drink. So sports drinks are basically, they contain carbohydrates, electrolytes, and some amino acids. And everybody who exercises less than an hour does not need a sports drink, because body is able to manage with whatever water you consume, unless you are sweating a lot or you are exercising in very high, hot, humid climatic conditions or very strenuous activities or indoors, then there is a need for supplementation and or consumption of a sports drink. And you can make your own sports drink by using different kinds of juices, as well as dilute the juices, the fruit that is available, or even your shikanji or Nimbu Pani can be a very good sports drink. There is electral water also. So it's not very important to buy those expensive sports drink if you're just training for an hour. And the composition of the sports drink is, it generally contains carbohydrates, electrolytes. Certain new sports drinks also contain amino acids. There is caffeine and certain flavors and colors. Actually, the invention of sports drink was from the Gatorade. That is, it was first started for a basketball team, and then later on it has been used for different athletes and it has become popular. So there are three types of sports drinks. That is isotonic drink, which has got the osmolality similar to that of the body fluids, and it can be consumed before, during, and after the training. There could be higher concentrated hypertonic drinks containing more than 10% of carbohydrates, and that can be used post-training. So sports drinks, definitely yes, but not for everybody on a regular basis if they are not working out. So I have, in my presentation, I'm going to discuss three important cases, and these three important cases, I'm going to discuss what supplementation could be beneficial for these three different cases. So I'm just taking an example of Anita, a marathon runner, and if you look at her training supplementation and race supplementation, it's going to be a little different, because when the athlete is training, they need more supplements because they need to actually train harder, whereas the race is going to be different. So some supplements would be required for training, like nitric oxide, which is synonymous with beetroot juice, or protein supplements where runners would also do strength training exercises to build up their strength for running, branched-chain amino acids, and sports drinks. And when it comes to race, when Anita has to run a race, she can consume a sports drink, gels and chews, and all that, what she needs to consume on the day of the race has to be planned well in advance. So depending upon what is the duration of the race, how long the race is going to be, and what has been her training, so all that, what is important here is that even supplementation requires gut training. Like you need to train your gut to consume. It is very difficult for people to consume fluids on the go when they are running for races, and it is important that you train your gut. So don't try anything on the day of the race, but you should have already tried it before you actually enter the race. So there are days when you have to tell the athlete, like what pre-race or when they have trial runs, they should be doing what exactly they will be doing in their actual race. So we look at some of the most important supplement. The most popular one is a protein supplement. Everybody knows about it. Mostly it is obtained from either whey protein, the most popular one, and the most bioavailable proteins when you compare it with whey protein, soy protein, or plant proteins. And it comes in various forms like isolates, hydrolysates, concentrates, and it is also available nowadays as protein bars. It comes in shakes, premixes, and also flakes. So protein supplements are necessary for athletes who do high intensity workouts, longer duration exercises. And the purpose of adding protein supplements is because they are rapidly absorbed by the body, and post exercise is the stimulus, and muscle protein synthesis is going to occur only after the exercise stimulus is there. So it makes no sense for a person who does not consume do any exercise to consume high amounts of protein supplements unless there is a deficiency. So whey protein or these easily bioavailable proteins can help in prevention of muscle breakdown. It also helps to release pain and or delays the onset of muscle fatigue. It improves the body composition, as Shaini has mentioned that every sport requires a specific sport body composition, and for that reason, to improve the body composition and also help them to lose weight, sometimes protein supplements or whey protein is definitely beneficial. It also helps to enhance the immunity. Then what should be the dose? It's always a question about protein supplements. How much is more and how much should be actually consumed? So actually the dose can range from around 30 to 50 grams of a whey protein powder or a plant protein powder, but it is very important that you actually calculate the dietary protein intake of an individual. So if 1.2 or 1.4 grams of protein is the actual requirement for that particular sport, calculate the dietary requirement of protein and accordingly plan based on the training. So we have to decide whether the protein is to be consumed after exercise, or you want to give it at bedtime, or if it's casein, you can give it at bedtime. And post workout or after a strength training session, athletes can consume any kind of a protein supplements. They generally it is safe, but people who are lactose intolerant, have milk allergy, then or they are intolerant to soy protein, then you cannot give them. But now we have more options available, like plant-based pea protein is also available for vegan athletes, and they are also supposed to be of good quality and are beneficial. Then comes the other important supplements with which the marathon runner can have is a branched amino acid supplement. Research actually shows that there is no effect, and but it helps to lower the central fatigue that occurs because it competes with tryptophan, and so the sudden fatigue level, or the person starts feeling very giddy, and the fatigue may happen during exercise, or mental fatigue could be there. For that reason, branched amino acids is very effective. It also helps to enhance immunity. The branched amino acid supplement can be taken either before, during, or after exercise training, and it can be between 3 to 6 grams, and the upper tolerable dose limit for BCAA is around 40 grams per day. Then the runner can also have nitric oxide, and beetroot juice or beetroot shot is something which is now becoming very popular. Basically, it is a vasodilator, and it helps in lowering the resting blood pressure. It improves the blood flow to the working muscles and also lowers the cost of submaximal exercise. So in endurance athletes, starting the day with a shot of beetroot juice could be effective in improving their performance. And generally, the dose that is available in the beetroot shots is like 400 milligrams of nitric oxide and in a 70 ml shot. But if you make it as a juice at home, it could be half liter. So it is little higher amount that needs to be consumed. And the level of nitric oxide that is produced is maintained for a long period of time. So if they are taking beetroot juice during training or just prior to the race, also it is important that the athlete actually practices the consumption. Some may have some gastric discomfort, but generally it is considered to be very safe. Then comes the chews and the gels. So if a marathon runner has to use supplements during the race, something that is very important to consume on the go is gels and chews. Now, what are these gels? So gels are basically concentrated sources of carbohydrates, and each gel may contain around 60 to 75 grams of carbohydrates. It's like a slurry, and per 100 ml, and the gel has to be consumed around 10 to 15 minutes prior to the race. So it helps to top up during the activity, so the carbohydrate will be digested, and when there is a need for as your carbohydrate store starts dipping down when you are in the race, that time these carbohydrates will be used as a source of energy. So apart from carbohydrates, the gels also contain electrolytes, because a runner or a endurance athlete is going to lose a lot of electrolytes on the go. So the gel is going to help to give the electrolytes, and it helps to sustain the activity. And there are researches which also show that there is an improvement in the timing of athletes who consume gels on the go. Also, since some people are not able to tolerate gels, also gels have to be run down with a fluid or water intake, and on the go they have to consume that water also after the consumption of gel. So instead of gels, for athletes who don't like a very gooey taste, for them chews are there. So it comes like form of a chicky or a small jelly chocolates, which we generally source from Mahabaleshwar or other places. So chews are something like that, and they also have the same composition as that of gels, and they can be also used during the races in endurance athletes. So we have seen nitric oxide, BCAA proteins, and sports drinks, which can be used by endurance athletes. Then I come to the next case, which is a weightlifter. And there are 4 important supplements that could be beneficial for a strength trained athletes, that is whey protein or any other protein source, creatine monohydrate, beta-alanine, and HMB. Now these supplements, so whey protein is again a standard for all the strength or endurance athletes depending upon their training. And creatine. Now creatine is one of the most popular supplements, especially with the gym goers, and it helps in rapid regeneration of ATP. So it is the anaerobic energy. For that, it provides the ATP, quick short bursts of energy. So this supplement is beneficial. There are 2 protocols that are followed for creatine supplementation, is a loading phase and a maintenance dose. When a loading is done, it is done as 0.3 grams per kg of body weight for around 5 to 7 days, and creatine is to be given along with carbohydrate solution or a carbohydrate food, and then a maintenance dose is given at 2 to 3 grams per kg of body weight up to 3 months. And sometimes it is also important that you should actually stop creatine for some period of time, because body has reached its optimal levels, and some people also experience GI discomfort with creatine supplementation. One important aspect about creatine supplementation in strength sports is that it is not recommended for any young athletes or adolescent or child athletes, because the American Association of Pediatrics actually bans the use of creatine monohydrate unless their athlete has actually reached his maturity. So this is something which you should be able to educate to the coaches and tell them that if they are recommending any kind of creatine supplement. Also, creatine effects are more pronounced in vegetarian athletes as compared to non-vegetarian athletes, because non-vegetarian foods can readily produce creatine in the body. So those benefits were more seen in the vegetarian athletes. Then we come to beta-alanine. Now, beta-alanine can be considered to be the cousin of creatine monohydrate, because actually it helps in a power. So creatine's role is also building power, and it also helps in lowering the fatigue, and it improves the power effect that is there. It enters the muscles and synthesizes carnosine and acts like a buffer. It also acts as an antioxidant, and it can be also combined with creatine as a pre-workout supplement. Now, this is generally used in bodybuilding, sprinting, and weightlifting, and the dose is around 6 grams per day. It can be given in divided doses. One side effect of beta-alanine is that it causes a tingling sensation or paresthesia, which can be reduced after an athlete consumes creatine beta-alanine supplementation for a few days. So there can be an initial effect of tingling, but once the athlete adjusts to it, there is no side effect of it. Then caffeine. Now, caffeine is something, again, a supplement which has to be consumed in a restricted amount. And all of us are aware that how our brains become more active, we can concentrate better. And caffeine also helps in lipolysis. Caffeine is something which actually helps in fat loss also. It is a thermogenic supplement, and the dose is around 3 to 6 milligrams per kg of body weight, and higher doses generally don't show any effect. So caffeine can be consumed prior to exercise. It is also added to certain sports drinks and gels, and some athletes who are insensitive to caffeine or who are genetically not able to digest caffeine should not be consuming caffeine. Also, it is a restricted supplement because excessive consumption of caffeine also appears in the urine sample of athletes when a dope test is done. So having 6 strong cups of coffee, say filtered coffee, which is filtered coffee which is highly concentrated in caffeine, could increase the caffeine levels in the urine, resulting in a doping violation. So caffeine has to be given in a restricted amount. So these are some of the supplements which the strength training athletes can consume. Next is hydroxymethylbutyrate. Again, it is a anti-catabolic agent. It minimizes the breakdown. When you're doing a lot of strength training, there is a lot of protein breakdown and cellular damage because of the intense training sessions. So 1 to 3 grams of HMB can be given, and it can be consumed 35 to 40 minutes prior to exercise. And it is generally given in trained athletes. So if anybody, new person who starts with the gym training, there is no need to give HMB. But if the athlete is trained and participating in competitions, then HMB can be given as a supplement. Then I come to the last part of it. That is, I just want to highlight, because a lot of parents come to us and ask us whether they really need to give their children a lot of supplements. So it is very individualized based on the training program and the number of sessions of training that they have. So we have Harshit. So what are the 3 supplements that can be beneficial? One would be sports drink, or it could be just electrol or ORS solution. Coconut water, lime juice, all these are also effective in rehydration process during as well as post exercise. Sports foods that can be consumed can be like energy bars. We have various amounts of different energy bars now available in the market, but we also have different kinds of traditional laddu preparations which are actually energy bars. So those can be also included. Protein supplements, yes, they can be given to the athlete, and now we also have a range of supplements which are available for specifically designed for children. So some children can have protein supplements, especially some children really don't have a good appetite. They don't consume adequate amount of protein and as per their training requirements. So they can be given some protein supplements. And I also suggest parents that keep these supplements towards the end of when they actually need to compete, and don't start the novice athlete with supplements. You can give them after they attain a certain level of their performance in the competitions. So why there is a need for supplementation? First is to prevent or correct nutritional deficiencies, and also it's a convenient option when their food is not available, especially for a traveling athlete. Optimizes recovery. Sometimes it's a financial gain if athletes market some supplements. And sometimes it is like a just in case policy, because many athletes feel that if I don't take, I may not be able to perform. If the other is taking, they all have this psychological impact that yes, the supplement is going to do the benefit or the trick to enhance the performance in the competitions. So why supplements can cause problems for athletes? Because they are not regulated like medicines, and labels are not complete. They don't contain what the product label contains. Sometimes cross contamination can occur, and sometimes there are unauthorized claims about the supplements. And people in India always think that herbal supplements or herbal products are always safe, but that is not true. There are a lot of herbs which are not tested, and consumption of these herbs can also cause a doping violation. So it's very important to educate them about these supplements. So buying supplements is often confusing because there is plenty available in the market, and you have to largely, lot of products are not backed by science. And in the pandemic, we have seen a growth of all these kinds of products that are available in the market. So what we need to check is the third-party certification. These are the third-party companies which certify the supplements, and you should be aware of these before recommending any kind of supplement for the athletes. So this is all about nutrition supplements for enhancing the performance. What is the efficacy and what are the safety guidelines for supplements? I would like to let you know about the Association of Sports Nutrition and Fitness Sciences, which is focusing on education in the field of sports nutrition. And we also run a course, Sports Specific Nutrition Management, currently running the 4th batch. And a lot of nutritionists and dietitians have joined this course. So if anybody is interested, definitely you can visit our website.
Gitanjali, I think that's the need of the hour. Great you're doing that course.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, Gitanjali, for such a case-based approach and everything about supplements that there is to be known and their usage. I now open the session for questions, please. We can see some on the chat box. So aside from a lot of appreciation on both your talks, there is one on how frequently do athletes need a blood work or blood test, and other techniques to monitor their performance and health? So, aside from lab tests, Shiny, this one was geared towards you.
Okay, I think this is Akshay Agarwala, ma'am. Hi, ma'am. Good evening. Thanks for this question. See, usually the sports physician or the team physician will take a call, and in case they don't have one, then probably twice a year or just before they're going for a camp or something, the association will definitely request them to take one. Now, besides the blood test or else say the DEXA, or of course, they will have their fitness test and all of that. What do we look for? One is energy levels. They should have energy for their regular practice sessions, and also they should be able to acclimatize or rather adapt to various temperatures wherever they're going, whichever part of the country they're going for a sport or even overseas. Next is recovery. So they'll be practicing for 6 to 7 hours in a day. And every single day, the next day when they turn up for practice sessions, they should be able to get the energy and be able to complete the session, be it in the ground or else in the fitness center. And they should have ample energy. So recovery is something that we look for. Gut health. So if there are any challenges there, then we know we need to address it. So we'll look into that aspect as well. If it's a child athlete, then are they growing well? If there are no marked changes in their height, or if they're losing weight rapidly, then we'll be definitely worried for it. Endocrine functions, as well as sleep-wake cycle, look at inflammatory markers, and if there is any kind of body image issues, or perhaps even eating disorders. So the relationship with food, they should be able to enjoy regular foods, which even their peers are having. So during off season, if they're going out, meeting friends, going for any family gatherings, they shouldn't be worried about food, but then they should know how to manage themselves in various circumstances. So the relationship with food is also one of the markers, I would say, as a professional, since we always focus on blood tests and anthropometric measurements and a lot of things. I think this is also one of the aspects to keep in mind. Gitanjali, if you have anything to add, kindly
Can I also just ask you a question on that only? For female athletes, if they are irregular with their menses, so what would you advise them to stop, or would you give them extra supplements at that time?
The most often what would happen is they'll be eating less.
Okay.
See, if you're wearing a very tight garment, say for instance a swimmer, or perhaps a gymnast or a skater, and they'll be very conscious about how they look at their waist or the abdomen. Right? Yes, and they should be confident about carrying themselves. If they're not, then they're going to cut down on food drastically, and they will not be reporting it. Right? There could be over-reporting or under-reporting. We don't know the actual picture unless a family member accompanies them during consultation. If it is a child or a teenager, yes, there's someone coming along. But otherwise, after 20, we only see the athletes coming all by themselves. And we don't know what's happening in their home, the situation. So that's another aspect. So stepping up the carbohydrates, ensuring that we know how much they're burning, how many calories per practice session, and if there's been something new. For example, just 2 days back, we had a badminton player from Gujarat. He had moved to an academy in Hyderabad. He's been there for the past 1 year. But then he's been feeling extremely tired, lot of niggles, and he had to take few breaks. And later when I asked the entire schedule, it's like his session starts at 7 in the morning, finishes at 9:30. He takes a nap for 1 to 2 hours. And then in the afternoon, he has a one-on-one session. None of the other students in the academy have, but he has one session in the afternoon around 2:30. Imagine the temperature, the humidity, and it's Hyderabad. Okay, so 2:30 to 3:30, he has a special session with a coach, that's special classes. Then 4 to 5, 5 to 6, he has tuition classes, his academics. Then 7 to 9 p.m., he has session in the academy. So while all the children take a nap in the afternoon post-lunch, this boy actually has a session. So in fact, we just had to tell him, listen, can you just not do this? And probably can you cut it out, because out there in the hot sun. So these are the kind of challenges. And if you push too much, the injuries will be much more. And they'll have a burnout. Usually when they peak, they just vanish from the scene. That's how a lot of people have a burnout.
You find them anemic? You find them anemic normally, the female athletes?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Another aspect also to look at is the gut health, because they might be eating, but they're not absorbing. So that's when we request them to go for a nutrigenomics test to see if they have any intolerances. So unexplained anemia, there could be a connection to food intolerance as well. We see a lot of people with non-celiac gluten sensitivity.
But then do they visit to psychiatrists frequently for this food habit correction or performance point of view?
Psychologist, yes.
Yes.
We do see them. Yes, Gitanjali, she works very closely with a psychologist, and we also have someone coming as a consultant to our clinic. And and they are a lot more comfortable when they are coming into a nutritionist clinic rather than go to an exclusive psychology center. There's a lot of stigma around mental health, and they don't want anyone seeing them walking into a psychologist center or a clinic. So we have actually someone on call. So it's like going in for a diet consultation, but then they would actually be meeting a sports psychologist there.
Yeah, I think even when way back in the 90s and 2000 till mid 2000, we had this multidisciplinary approach, and mental training was an equal part of sports performance, training for sports performance. And I'm sorry if it is not appropriate, but our Olympic champions, even Rajyavardhan Singh, and to achieve that level of excellence, they went through a lot of imagery, and imagery helps give your best, your personal best. Every person while growing up has a particular set of motivators, and to get peak performance, if it's very natural, and you have everything in place, just as you have everything in place physically to get peak physical performance, if you have everything perfectly in place for mental performance, then very good. Otherwise, these small corrections in both fields together and integrated with the right goal setting can actually give a personal best to the sports person. And therefore, both these trainings are integrated from way back, from three decades back, even in India.
Oh, yeah, lots of questions, Preeti, in the chat box.
Yeah, lots on energy intake, energy balance,
So,
and then macronutrients, all of this. Also, Dr. Lahiri Suprapani, all these are from Rucha. A lot of interest in weight, energy intake, energy expenditure, and balance. And I would like to add here with our little research, energy availability is a new concept. Which means, which is a mathematical deduction. Now, energy balance can be okay for about within a week, but energy availability is on a day-to-day basis, and that tells you how much energy is available when a person is at rest, because all your ATPs are used for physical activity, and what is left behind for recovery actually decides how much recovery of tissues take place. And if the tissues do not recover properly, the first thing that gets affected, especially in females, is the menstrual health or the hormonal health. And even in men, in women, it can be noticed very easily as menstrual dysfunction. But in men also, there is a lower amount of testosterone. And it shows up in various ways in their physical and physiological performance. And there is a whole set of assessment technique. IOC had launched this in 2015-16, and we have one PhD in this area, and Indian sports people have a lot of scope for appropriate dietary practices so that they can have their energy availability within the normal limits.
Yeah, but Gitanjali, there's one question for you now. Do they need more amount of vitamin D and iron, or is it gender specific?
Yeah, and also creatine to include it.
How much? Yeah. Because I think creatine is just being given left, right, and center by these gym people. So your take on that, Gitanjali, please.
Regarding creatine,
water requirement.
Yeah, water intake has to be increased when creatine is consumed. Also, it causes a lot of gain in weight, because when creatine is given, it is also given along with carbohydrate. So there is also muscle glycogen storage, and sometimes athletes do gain some weight after creatine supplementation. So definitely that is there to be taken into account, and water intake has to be increased. There is also one question about calcium supplements are needed for sports person. So again, you have to actually check the do the blood profile, and most of them will actually have a normal level of blood calcium between that 9 to 10 milligrams per deciliter. But calcium supplement definitely not, because Indian athletes do drink a lot of milk, and their requirement is actually taken care of. What they would actually need would be to increase their magnesium intake, and which we are seeing that a lot of athletes do have magnesium deficiencies. And by adding magnesium, it helps in improving their sleep, muscle function, and also a better recovery. So that can be done.
And sugar craving.
They've said macro and micronutrients tailored to specific sports, Shiny. So both of you can address this, please.
Macros and micros.
Specific to, everybody, the moment there's a person who's even going for just doing weight training, they'll come back who have been put on a high protein diet. So how much is required, and does it vary from sport to sport?
The requirements of protein, yes, the requirements of protein and carbohydrate vary. And what is most important is their training program that we have to actually look into. So when they start with after an off season, definitely their requirement is going to be different. With when their focus is on muscle building, then protein requirements will be higher. But when they come to the competitive phase, then you don't need to give them high protein once they have achieved their target body weight just prior to the competition. But it is only and excess protein is not required, because many of our athletes are specifically what I see in Indian athletes is they are still drinking their badam ka pani, and they are drinking all the other milk, 1 liter, especially in the northern states, they drink 1 liter, 2 liters of milk, then they'll have whey protein shake, then again they have this badam ka pani where they add 100 grams of badam and have that. So they are doing excess. In addition to that, they are consuming also protein, which becomes very high for them. And that is excess protein intake, which is observed in certain athletes from specific sports like boxing, wrestling, or weightlifting.
So do you have a problem when they stop doing
they definitely have a problem after they stop,
they keep
because
eating that extra.
Many of them actually put on weight, finding it very difficult to lose weight. They definitely have problems after they
more.
Yes, they keep on eating the same kind of food, whether it is off season or in season. So here we generally do a lot of sessions with athletes, and we have to tell them that how every sport is different. A runner cannot be a weightlifter cannot be a boxer. It is extremely different, and that is what the role of nutritionist is, to actually educate them about all these important aspects about the sport.
And post-retirement, they're all out of shape. Not
yes.
all, but
they are all.
Notice.
Exactly. I was going to ask this. That post-retirement, yes. How to make it a reverse diet pattern.
Okay. So then they will have a lot of other health issues also.
Exactly. Yes.
And another thing is about the mindset, because in their mind, they're still that 20-year-old. Or perhaps that 25-year-old, that champion. And it also comes from a space of, I've done it all. I've trained so much. That's me. I know it all. When they come with that, it becomes very, very challenging. That's when we call the psychologist on board. Then it's much more easier to work alongside. Otherwise, it's because they've been on the podium. They've been to national, international meets. And the mindset is like, I've been there, done that at a much younger age than you. So why should I sit here and listen to your recommendations? So a lot matters on their mindset and their approach and their perception. So if they've already gone through this entire thing and say, okay, I'm ready to seek help. I'm here to accept you as a professional, and then things work well. Otherwise, it's quite a challenge. There are a lot of things that's unsaid, unspoken.
So, and there's one question from Isha. How to calculate the expenditure of calories during workout? Any book references?
Harris Benedict and
Mifflin St. John.
Yeah. Mifflin St. John. I'm just going to type.
Okay. So they can see that.
And you can also use an app. We end up using, Gitanjali, do you use Intuitive? Just to calculate their intake and all of that. But requirement, Mifflin.
Requirement, we calculate using Harris Benedict and Mifflin. Both. And
Preeti is also asked, should we stop our training during period times? And are the by Kajal, are the supplement doses same for female and male athletes?
For supplements, there is no specific variation in the doses for supplements for male and female athletes. And in practice, we see that a lot of young female athletes actually train even if they have periods. Most of them.
Yeah, they train.
And there's one question: osmolarity of.
I would say, ma'am, they have to train because the competitions are not like they are scheduled week after week, so they have to train and play during those days also.
Yes, they have to.
They don't have a choice. Yeah, if it's scheduled, then they will go out there and play. Yeah, about osmolality, I think Gitanjali, you'll be the best person to answer that.
Not exactly the osmolality, but carbohydrate composition and electrolyte levels are definitely mentioned on the sports drinks. But in
you need to. Is there a lab?
Yes.
I don't think so, right?
What? Yeah. I don't see the question.
See, the question is, how can the athlete test the osmolality of a sport drink if it's homemade?
No, the right proportion of adding. See, another important thing which I have noticed is that the foreign sports drinks generally don't work for our Indian athletes. The osmolality is a little like carbohydrate content could be low. And for Indian weather conditions, we need little more extra amount of sodium because of the tropical climate and excessive sweating that the athletes experience. So there is definitely a different requirement for us. So we now have different sports drinks also available in the market.
Yeah, one that is suited for Indian athletes.
For Indian athletes.
And another thing is also post-workout. Like, I'm in Chennai, so it's like very hot and humid even now. So what we recommend is that they have some pickle, garka bana hua pickle, or there's those dry lemon with a lot of salt in it. And even the amla that we soak in brine, they can even take a little bit of that water. These are things that we make at home, right? The mango pickle, or else the amla that is soaked in water, and then there's a little chili that we add, there's salt that goes in. That liquid also, they can actually take it. And these are things which are locally available, and we encourage them to carry these dried pickles also with them. It doesn't have any oil, but this is just those salted ones. Yeah, we call it in Tamil as nartanga, but then these are those real big lemons, and that's cut into large pieces and sun-dried with salt in it. And if they just keep sucking that, and they feel a lot better. And they can also take those crisps with their meal, so those are also quite helpful to get that additional salt, because they might not be able to consume. See, though we might calculate calories and give appetite, I'm sure Geetanjali would agree, a lot of athletes have issue eating food. Appetite.
There is loss of appetite post-exercise.
Yeah. And they are not able to drink adequate water. I saw a question on hydration. How do you ensure that they don't drink adequate water? They say, I'm unable to do that. Then we really have to think about various ways in which it could be brought. So probably they can have some cucumbers. They can keep having few fruits, juicy ones like watermelons and oranges and some grapes. Different ways of having maybe even soup, or I'll say a Thai curry, or I'll say a cowsway, because the meal itself is in liquid form, the porridges. So that way they get some additional liquids. So we just have to work around it and encourage them to consume a lot more of these liquids. Otherwise, just drinking plain water or just having some electrolyte drink becomes a huge...
And also one more thing to add is like most of these supplements have a very sweet taste, like either it's a sports drink or a gel or a chew or something, and sometimes the sweet taste also puts off your actual consumption. So salty or spicy foods also help, like what Shiny has said about the lemon pickle and salted snacks. Like even the shakarpara.
Anjali, another thing then for diabetes, challenges faced by athletes with diabetes.
Yeah, that is actually a different topic to discuss.
Yeah, okay, but you handle them all. There's Anuja, you put your hand up. You can unmute and ask a question. Hi Anuja, great to see you here.
Anuja,
hi. Rather than typing, which I often do wrong, so I thought I will speak. So Shiny and Geetanjali, both of you, don't you have any indigenous book? Because most of these books are foreign, and a lot of these things may not be applicable. And you just explained, this pickle and these things, regional things and that. Don't you have any book which will help?
I'm writing one, ma'am. I'll publish soon.
You're waiting for that.
When are you publishing it? It's been started during the pandemic.
Yeah,
great. I think it's a need of PR.
If I may just add on, it's such a nice
Preeti, please.
Yeah, it is such a nice conversation. I didn't want to butt in, but in 2009, I had published a book with all the basic requirements, 10 basic requirements from where we started nutrition in India. And now there's another in the pipeline, which I cannot tell you the banner, but I have with me in it, and some other. Okay, thank you.
Mute, when you're,
that was really entertaining.
Sorry. Dr. Vijay, please mute yourself. Dr. Vijay, Hanji.
So I see a lot of scope for indigenous food, and I appreciate that dietitians today are now open to their local food for sports performance as well.
Yeah,
and
that's well said.
But and the second point is that sports people, like any other athletes, like any other human being, of course, have a lot of self-esteem and they've achieved a lot, and they know it all. But from the beginning, our new athletes should be trained to eat for the body. Okay, knowing everything is not good enough. Knowing better than the other person, not good enough. What your body, being self-aware of your individual needs of the body. Actually, body and the mind, both physical, physiological, and mental. So food has a role to play in both. So that person should be made aware of, made self-aware, and should be given a focus on diet for performance, for output, not because of various other reasons. So that one little good practice in place ensures a lot even later on. Once you know what your body is performing, good athletes, I mean the elite athletes, even children, they are highly motivated. We have data from Sports Authority of India in various groups, and the level of motivation and self-awareness of these young children, 10 years, 13 years, they know their body, they know they have worked out this much, they know they have to eat 1 laddu or 2, maybe 3 today, 5 badam or 7 badam today no badam, because they did not do an activity today, or no laddu. So that kind of an awareness generation is now the current responsibility of each sports dietitian. And once you do that, and way back, I refer to you, Dr. Jatana, when I was a young sports nutritionist at Sports Authority of India, and your hospital, you had sent our wrestler with cabbage ears to me because he had high cholesterol. And so you take care of him, because the amount he eats, my whole body.
But really, but just having this little one session, I don't think is adequate for us to learn it all. We've had hypotheses by people, and we've had people with CKD. I've had one person who was taking 300 grams of proteins, and I said, "Oh my God!" So, but I think the book is important.
Deal with him. The amount he eats, my whole ward eats. So I don't want to clash.
I think, the questions, I think, please, everybody, you can catch Shaini and Gitanjali again on their independent calls. I think we'll just wind up now with a big thank you to Gitanjali and Shaini. Excellent session, so enlightening and very well presented. To the point, clear, amazing sessions, both of you, and thank you, both of you, for being there. And I would like to also thank Dr. Nanda Kumar Jairam, who's the president of GAPIO, for this opportunity. A big thanks to Dr. Sushil Jain for guiding us, and and of course, our chairperson, Preeti, big thank you. And Richa for being there, and grateful for being there on a Saturday evening. A big thank you to our participants for making it so interactive. I think if we had some more time, we could just go on and on and on with so many questions that need to be addressed. Because we're so much on clinical that hearing sports is another new thing that we have to learn. Thank you again.
And there are so many more candidates for the course that Gitanjali is running.
Yeah, we'll be sending all the girls to you. You need to train them for more sports nutritionists.
Yes,
sure.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gitanjali. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Jain.
Thank you, Anita ji.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.